Okay. Good evening, dear friends. On behalf of Department of Economics, R.K.Talreja College, I welcome all the dignitaries and participants. In fifth phase of lockdown and first phase of unlock, many industries are facing problems like production loss, profit loss.
This
Partially,
conference
many
will
have
now be
started their
recorded.
production
This conference is
and
no longer being
and
recorded.
slowly and steadily trying to get hold on their business. But one industry in India which is totally under lock and key, and that industry is entertainment industry. It is causing lots of unprecedented problem to this
This
industry.
conference will
To
now be recorded.
underrate the various problems and hurdles of entertainment industry and to seek solution, we have organized today's webinar on impact of COVID-19 on the economy of drama and film industry. Our eminent guest, Mr. Denzil Smith and Anshuman Jha, will express his views and concerns on the issues. Before that, now I request Dr. Geeta Menon, in charge principal of our college, to express her views. Over to you, madam.
Thank you, Ashwini madam. Good evening, one and all. I welcome all the participants, students, faculties of economics and other subjects from all across Mumbai and other part of the country. The topic will be of interest to each and every one from every walk of life. I welcome the distinguished speaker for the webinar, Mr. Denzil Smith, a veteran actor from the Bollywood, and Anshuman Jha, a young dynamic actor-producer of Bollywood, to address the topic, impact of COVID-19 pandemic on the economy of drama and film industries globally with special reference to India. Today, in the pandemic situation, daily you hear news about the financial crisis prevalent all across the country and the globe. The pandemic situation has affected every sector in our life, the social, industries, education, you name it, entertainment, e-commerce, and every aspect. It has not spared any country, developed or underdeveloped, any state, any person, poor. The entertainment industry, which actually gives smile and removes the stress from the mass, today is under the pressure of COVID-19 pandemic. R.K.Talreja College of Arts, Science and Commerce, the Department of Economics has taken the lead to address the impact on the economy aspect. We have the resource persons who actually are facing the crisis and are in tears. I wish all the participants, especially the students, to understand the unprecedented situation and learn every related aspect. I congratulate all the participants, my colleague, Vice Principal Neelam Kapoor Madam, HOD of Economics Madam, Dr. Manjushri Dole, my other colleagues of the department, economics department, and from other departments, the technical team who have taken pain to organize this webinar. I congratulate the participants from across the state to be present here and listen to our the resource person. I thank you all. Over to you, Ashwini.
Thank you very much, madam. Now I request Neelam Kapoor Madam, Vice Principal of our college, to express her views. Over to you, Madam.
Thank you, Ashwini. Good afternoon to all. As we are suffering from the pandemic, all other are also suffering. So we should see that what is the economic effect on various different sectors. I congratulate our economics department to choose a subject like this. We have with us our great speakers, Denzil Smith sir and Anshuman Jha sir. One is from the front end and other is from the back end. So we will be able to see and realize how both side entertainment industry is being affected. Not only actors, the other people, but also how the producers are suffering. So I congratulate economic department and thank our principal, Dr. Geeta Menon, to take the initiative to conduct such webinars. I congratulate once again HOD of Economics Department, Manjushri Dole Madam, and the entire Economics Department. So let's go and hear what is the effect of this lockdown period on the entertainment industry. Thank you.
Thank you, Neelam Madam. Now I request Dr. Manjushri Dole, Head of the Department of Economics, to introduce the speaker for the day, Mr. Denzil Smith. Over to you, Dole Madam.
Thank you, Ashwini Madam. Thank you. And good evening, everyone. And whenever we utter words, drama or cinema or film, then all of us know that there is rarely any person who is not watching the films or TV serials or dramas or web series or any other such performing arts all over the India, all over the world, people belonging to all ages, people belonging to both the sexes, all of us, we love films, we love stage performance, and therefore what actually every day nowadays we are missing is various television series, various films which otherwise would have released in theaters. So all that enjoyment is discontinued as an effect of lockdown, as an effect of pandemic situation, not only in India, all over the world. And therefore, drama and cinema, these are very close to our hearts. And I'm fortunate enough to have Mr. Denzil sir, as well as Mr. Anshuman Jha sir, to give his views and to enlighten us about the effect of pandemic on these industries. And I'm fortunate enough to introduce Mr. Denzil Smith, because not only is veteran actor on stage as well as in cinema, Bollywood cinema as well as Hollywood cinema, but it's a great pleasure that he is part of my extended family. Born in 1916, he started his career as a stage artist in 1988. He has acted in over 45 plays and 50 films. And therefore, I will not take much time in giving the list because list is very lengthy. He has also worked as voiceover in many films as well as web series. And a few films in which he has acted, I will just mention the names. For example, in Bollywood, he has acted in film like Happy Fir Bhag Jayegi, in film like Lunchbox, which majority of us have enjoyed, film like Paap, Badshah, Lamha, Delhi Crime, Badla, etc. He has acted in many plays. Most famous play, which all over the world he is performing, he is a part of it, that is Gohar, which is very famous. Then he has acted in various Hollywood films, important Hollywood film Viceroy House, in which he has played role of Jinnah. And I'm very happy to share with all of you that he lost 14 kgs in 1 month to suit in the role of Jinnah ji. And it is really a very much professional part of him, because we people, we try to lose our weight, but within 1 month or 1 year, it is very difficult for us to lose even 1 kg of our weight. But in 1 month, he lost 14 kg to fit in that particular role. So to that extent, he is going and showing his dedication while performing his roles, not only in films, also in drama, also in Bollywood films. Another important Hollywood films are say Frozen, the best exotic marigold hotel, photograph, Frozen, etc. So he has acted in sizable number of films, sizable number of plays, and all of us are very much eager to listen from him. What is the impact of this pandemic situation on drama and film industry, not only in India, but outside India, outside Bollywood, on Hollywood, as well as in all over the world in global film and drama world. So over to you, sir, Mr. Denzil Smith.
Thank you, Dr. Dole, for that lovely introduction. Dear esteemed faculty, students, and all viewers here. At the very outset, I have to thank Dr. Geeta Menon, Principal of Talreja College, and Dr. Neelam Kapoor, and mostly Dr. Manjushri Dole for inviting me to participate in this webinar where I can share my 2 bits, on what is happening right now in the industry. I have culled certain facts and figures from various sources. I will try and quote those sources wherever possible. So let me just start by saying perhaps no industry is being damaged as quickly or as widely by the rapid spread of COVID-19 as the entertainment industry. Yes. Analysts estimate the virus has already cost the global box office as much as $5 billion, mainly due to theater closures in China, the world's second biggest film market behind only the US, India, Japan, South Korea, Italy, and France. Bollywood and Hollywood studios are being forced to postpone the releases of various blockbuster movies and to drastically alter production schedules around the world. Now, this industry is truly a global industry. The film industry is particularly vulnerable to the outbreak because both the production and also the consumption of its output require that large numbers of people huddle together in small spaces. It is also a truly global industry, as I said earlier. Studios and production companies have offices and film sets in several countries, and they often require employees to frequently travel between them. One need only to look at the end credits of most major films to see just how many locations a single 2-hour film relies on in order to reach theater screens. For instance, this new film coming up, No Time to Die, the upcoming James Bond film, whose planned release in April was delayed until November, was shot in the UK, Italy, Jamaica, and Norway. Thousands of people from all over the world worked on the film, and they did so in extremely close quarters. Now, with context to India. Now, India's film industry, purveyor of the song and dance spectacles to millions, will take at least 2 years to recover financially from the coronavirus pandemic, which is threatening big ticket projects, putting at risk tens of thousands of jobs. The Indian film industry lost box office revenue of about $130 million from March to mid-May. New releases have been postponed. Film and TV and web series shootings have been halted. Theaters have been unable to screen movies. Daily wage employees, such as spot and light boys, are struggling for their next meal. The rupees 183 billion Indian film industry is going through its worst phase because of this lockdown. Now, while the impact of the lockdown on the industry at large is still being evaluated, now let's take a look at how film production division and exhibition have suffered in India over the past 2 months. Now, COVID-19's first impact came when Reliance Entertainment on March 12th indefinitely postponed Rohit Shetty's film Suryavanshi. The film starring Akshay Kumar and Katrina Kaif was scheduled to release on 24th of March. Now, this was quickly to be followed by Sir, Sandeep Aur Pinky, Farrar, Hathi Mere Saathi, and 83. All of them postponed too. Bhagi 3 saw fewer takers in this second week. And Irfan Khan, God bless his soul, his film Angrezi Medium had to be pulled out of theaters. Now, it eventually released on an OTT platform, Disney Hotstar. Similarly, a lot of big ticket releases in regional languages have also been delayed. COVID-19's ripple effect was felt when film bodies, including the Federation of Western India Cine Employees, FWICE, and Indian Film and Television Directors Association, IFTDA, decided to halt shooting of movies, TV shows, and web series. Now, major production houses like Balaji Motion Pictures, Dharma Productions, and Yashraj Films also promptly called off all production activity. Now, amid this, various state governments ordered the closing down of cinema halls. Now, the announcement on March 24th of a 21-day national lockdown sealed the fate for several projects. Ranbir Kapoor and Alia Bhatt's much-awaited Brahmashastra 2 halted production. The film, which after several delays was finally scheduled to release on December 4, 2020, now seems to be looking at an uncertain future. Now, Shahid Kapoor's Jersey, a remake of the Telugu hit of the same name, also suspended shooting to ensure the safety of its crew. Now, among the movies most hit are those that are under production like Gangubai. Now, after an exciting January, February that offered a mixed bag, now things don't look bright for the industry at all. Experts estimate the entertainment industry has already lost more than 1,000 crores because of the lockdown. This is the first time in our history that the entire India box office collection is zero. There have been regional strikes and shutdowns in the past, but nothing like this pan-India. I think it will be a zero quarter, which is a huge thing. The release schedule will now linger on until 2021. Now, according to a Financial Express report, the film industry faced a decline of 29.1% to rupees 1,062.4 crore in the first quarter of 2020. Now, for the same period last year, the figure stood at 1,499.4 crore. Now, what is expected is a 50% drop in multiplex footfalls in the next quarter, particularly in metro and tier 2 cities. With a lot of movie releases postponed, there will be an erosion in earnings of listed multiplex players such as PVR and Inox. If you go to the stock market, you will see that their shares have already fallen. Now, let's look at the impact on the television industry. Now, according to the research firm Watch Channel, for 2 consecutive weeks, it even broke its own record by attaining a viewership of 1.9 billion for the week 14. Now, what is the impact of this lockdown on daily wage workers of the entertainment industry. In India, perhaps the most hard hit are the daily wage earners of the film industry. The daily wagers, such as hair and makeup persons, drivers, spot and light boys, they will face the huge repercussions if work doesn't resume soon. But the question that arises is how far will the producers go to ensure a safe working environment for its cast and crew? Now, once everything resumes, new safety guidelines will have to be strictly followed. Anywhere between 100 to 200 people are averagely employed on an Indian film set. It's a labor-intensive industry, and hygienic conditions will have to be ensured. Now, this lockdown has also had a great effect on the regional film industries. The regional film industries, analysts have not yet been able to put a number to the losses, but everyone knows the numbers will be huge and the impact will last at least a year, if not two. Some say 2 years. The Telugu film industry was expected to rake in around 400 crores this summer, and all estimations have gone for a toss. Now, after the lockdown, the big ticket films are expected to do business with 25% loss even before release. And there will be no theatrical release of small budget movies for a long, long time. The real challenge will be to get people into cinema halls back again. Besides, a 1,000-seat theatre is staring at a monthly loss of rupees 10 lakh because of the lockdown. Many of them will close down. At least most of the single screen ones won't be able to afford it. Most people are of the view that the film industry is expected to be the last to reopen. And there will be a drastic change in the way the industry does business after this lockdown. Also, since people have been getting partial or no income, spending on entertainment will become secondary. Now, there have been beneficiaries to this whole thing. Now, if there has been a beneficiary of the lockdown, it would be the OTT streaming platforms like Netflix and Amazon Prime. Now, as per a KPMG report, there has been a secular, and I quote, secular rise in OTT consumption in duration and across demographics and devices, with OTT players with a large legacy library clearly having an advantage. In 2019, the industry, that is the OTT industry, had a revenue of rupees 173 billion in India, as per this report. That is now surely going to rise. To keep up with the demand, big players like Amazon Prime Video and Netflix have shifted to standard definition from HD to reduce the load on bandwidth and increase accessibility. The KPMG report said, and I quote again, habit formation could result in a new normal and accelerated growth in consumption and monetization for the platforms. Now, many agree that people will prefer OTT even after the lockdown ends, as audiences have gotten used to watching content from the comfort of their homes. Now, what happens to major films which couldn't release during the lockdown? Now, what happens to this backlog of releases? Now, with the box office calendar going for a toss and no announcement regarding new release dates, small budget films are likely to suffer, with big films clashing almost every Friday when theaters open. With audiences getting used to watching digital content at home, the industry will need to give them something extraordinary, something that can be experienced only in a theater. And smaller films will now have to make their way towards digital platforms. There is another view here that producers are saying that they might start, which is the contrary view, they might start releasing with smaller films to see how theaters are filling up and then release the big ticket ones. But I doubt that is possible because the smaller films will, anyway have small budgets. It'll be difficult for them to recover. They might go straight onto the digital platform. However, moving movies direct to digital is easier said than done. OTT platforms won't be able to afford a 100 crore film. They may be able to afford buy a 5 crore film. But how will it be possible for them to monetize a 100 crore film? So big movies will still need big theatrical releases. In India, a major share of the box office comes from the country's top 10 cities and 6 metros, including Delhi, Mumbai, Chennai, and Kolkata, which are currently in the list of hotspots. Now, what remains to be seen is whether the government will open up these cities, including public places like malls and cinema halls, once the lockdown ends. Now, how are theaters preparing for film releases? Theaters and cinemas will have to think differently now to ensure social distancing once they resume services. Cross allocation of seats is one measure. Another can be to program the shows in such a manner that entries, intermissions, and exits of 2 shows do not occur simultaneously. Now, this should be done to help ensure that food counters, exit lobbies, and restrooms do not get too crowded. Enhanced hygiene protocols such as deep cleaning and disinfecting processes, non-invasive temperature checks, and hand sanitizers will also have to be introduced. Now, China's 70,000 movie theaters have been closed since January. The country has lost an estimated $2 billion at the box office since the outbreak. And there is no official word from the government about when theaters will be reopened and film sets revisited. But when they are, the country will enforce strict rules about how they are allowed to operate. The Beijing Center for Disease Prevention and Control and the Beijing Municipal Film Bureau have instituted a joint directive. So Variety, the magazine, has reported. Theatre and film sets must do the following if they want to resume operations in Beijing, China's largest cultural and entertainment hub. Cinemas must only sell tickets in alternative rows, meaning they can be at a maximum of half capacity. Again, revenue drop. Movie goers must register with their full names and other details. Theaters must be disinfected after every screening. Now, similarly, for exhibition, they have these protocols. Now, there will have to be protocols also while working, which will again increase costs. Now, unlike many workplaces, you can't work from home when working on a film shoot. Directors can't teleconference with actors. Makeup artists can't do their jobs via Zoom and this GoTo, Now, because of the global nature of film and TV productions, those in the industry are more susceptible to infection. But they are also at a higher risk of spreading the virus as well, due to how much physical contact is typically required to make a movie. Hairstylists and movie and makeup persons have to touch the actors' faces. Actors often have to touch, sometimes kiss other actors. Crew members are all constantly handling the same pieces of equipment. So here's what China has presently stipulated. Film crews with fewer than 50 people can resume working, but only members with body temperatures at or below 37.3 degrees Celsius can participate. All film crew members, other than performers, must wear masks during production. Film crews with more than 50 people cannot resume working until the coronavirus outbreak is over. In India, for one, the number of people on a set will have to be reduced for some time and health precautions increased. A safety advisor might become a norm for production houses. So in conclusion, it's much of doom actually, while it will no doubt be a rough year at the global box office for the industry, most analysts expect it will eventually recover. But the virus has already shown how incredibly vulnerable the entertainment industry is to something like this in just a few months. Any one of these functions, the other two will suffer. Distributors and theatre companies could go under to buy and to show. There's very little studios can actually do about this, aside from pivoting entirely to streaming, that is OTT platforms. In conclusion, I'd like to say the very nature of both filmmaking and film going demands that humans gather in close quarters. The idea of community and shared experiences is what makes the movies such a revered art form. And it is also what could ultimately cause its annihilation. So now I can take questions. This is in a nutshell my overview of what is happening. And if you have questions, I can take them. And I will answer them to the best of my ability.
Vinit sir, hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Sir, but now Anshuman Jha sir is joining and he has already joined. So
Okay.
first we will finish his speech and then we can take question and answers.
Sure. Oh, good to have Anshuman here. Good.
Thank you
Finally
so much. Sir. Now, before introducing Anshuman Jha sir, I would like to thank Mr. Denzil Smith, because when I invited him for this webinar, not only within a fraction of second, he accepted our invitation, but सोने पे सुहागा या दूध में शक्कर जैसे बोलते हैं, वैसे he has invited Mr. Anshuman Jha, one of his colleague from film industry, young, energetic, dashing colleague from film industry. He himself suggested that he will join us, and even Mr. Anshuman Jha sir also, within a second, fraction of second, he has accepted our invitation on the spot. And that is why I'm very happy to introduce all of you Mr. Anshuman Jha, born in 1985 at Allahabad, UP in India. He has acted in sizable number of Bollywood movies. He is a stage artist. He has acted in number of dramas and plays and web series. The Boy Who Stopped Smiling, that was the play in which he has played lead role. Number of Bollywood movies like Love, Sex and Dhoka, Mona Darling, Chauranga, ये है बकरापुर, अंग्रेजी में कहते हैं हम भी अकेले तुम भी अकेले, No Fathers in Kashmir. These are number of films. The list is very lengthy, very long, but these are few films which here I am mentioning. Then number of web series also he has acted and produced, and one of the very renowned web series which is famous, that is Mastram. He has worked in first season as well as in second season of this particular web series. He has also endorsed various brands like Red Label Team, then Tata Sky, Pepsi, etc.
Stream has ended because Kapoor madam.
Thank you, madam. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you so much for that introduction. Can you hear me?
yeah, I can hear you.
I'm sorry. Firstly, I got delayed. My brother surprised me and he came down. I have not seen anyone from my family for nearly 3 months. So he just came down to the building to see how I was doing, which is why I got slightly delayed. It was lovely hearing you, Denzil. It's amazing how this whole pandemic has affected the entire world. And then if we come further micro, Asia, and then if we come further into our country, India. And I will pick up from where you left, sir, because you touched a very interesting topic about how our industry by nature, from a making point of view and from a viewer point of view, is dependent on a social experience, a collective social experience, which includes people getting together while making the film, and it includes people assembling together to enjoy the experience, the audiovisual experience. And that is going to get majorly affected now because in China, you ended with China. There was an effort to restart theaters on March 24th because the pandemic had plateaued and gone down. And they opened theaters with 2 seats, leaving 2 seats and making the bookings. And not one person turned up to watch movies. And then they eventually shut down again after 6 days of reopening. So the fear factor now in human beings from the point of view of getting together on set to make the film, and for the audience from the point of view of viewing the film inside a film theater, is going to be a major factor that will determine how we move forward as an industry. And it's very scary, I will not lie, because I run a small production house. I'm not a big studio. We specialize in making high concept, small budget films. Mr. Denzil Smith is part of our latest production, Hum Bhi Akele, Tum Bhi Akele, which was scheduled to release on the 15th of May and now has been indefinitely pushed. And I don't see it getting a theatrical release, to be honest, which is heartbreaking because let's talk as artists. At the end of the day, filmmaking is an art form and it's a very expensive art form, but some of us make films for the big screen. I'm traditional that way. It's a big hit on a psychological level for makers who have spent money to make it look big. As Denzil was pointing out, the films which have already been produced. It's very heartbreaking for the small and medium films. The big films, yes, of course, they're losing money, but a film like, say, 83, which was scheduled for a April 10th release, they cannot afford to come on OTT because the costs, the OTTs will not be able to match the costs of production on that film. B, I think that's the best kind of film to bring audiences back into theaters. So they know that whenever they do release, people, if the scenario is a little better and a little safer, people might choose to come back to theaters for a film like that because it's about sport, it's about India winning, it's about, so there'll be a lot of passion. But it's an indefinite wait, isn't it? Because nobody can say when will it happen. Nobody can say a date. Nobody can predict. As a producer, that's the next bigger challenge, that film releases are lined much in advance for the big films and for the medium and small films. So now Amir Khan's Lal Singh Chadda was scheduled for a release on Christmas this year. While the film has been shot, it's in its final stages of post-production. Even if that gets ready, the backlog of the big film releases, like Denzil mentioned, Suryavanshi was coming on March 24th. I mean, those films are going to get first preference, right? That have been waiting, hopefully. But then everyone's money is everyone's money, right? Capital speaks. Who's to say should the other films wait, not wait? So whenever it does open up, there's going to be a mad rush at the box office, which in any case, under normal circumstances, gets a little dirty sometimes. It's so it's going to be all these factors of release dates, Fridays. On the exhibition side, this is a main worry that we are facing from a theatrical release point of view. From the making point of view, the bigger challenge is to cut costs now. And small and independent films, in any case, worked on a limited resource allocation manner. But the big budget films, for example, Karan Johar's Takht, I believe that's on hold. Fox was partnering on it, and as per my knowledge. So now the revenue models are going to change. So an example, just to make sense of it, is if a big film made, say, 10 rupees at the box office, it ended up making another 5 rupees at the OTT and another 4 rupees at TV, which is satellite, and then another 1 rupee in your ancillary sales, which is your in-flight entertainment, your Tata Sky movie days, stuff like that. Now what's going to happen is it's fully going to change because theater is out of the window. So it's going to be the majority of the revenue is going to be generated from the OTT and the satellite, which brings the other big issue that I'm going to talk about. Satellite is dependent on censorship. You need to have a censor certificate to be able to sell a film. Now, this lockdown has affected the censor board. Of course, they are not working. So they haven't screened a single film since March 14th or 16th, something like that. So, for example, our next release, Hum Bhi Akele Tum Bhi Akele, which had its screening on 8th of March, hasn't had a certification because the post-screening process takes a couple of weeks. So we are just on hold because we don't know when we'll get the certificate, which therefore means that we cannot sell the satellite, which therefore means that more revenue is going to for some time at least, is going to take a hit. China is the second largest box office in the world, and I don't see a film releasing in theaters there for a while as well. So between India, United States, and China, I think the theatrical source of revenue is going to be on hold for a while for all studios, as we all know. But more importantly, like Denzil sir mentioned, it's impossible for OTT platforms to meet revenue models generated on films via the theater because they don't have those kind of budgets, simply put, to buy films. Bigger films will need to wait because then the distribution circles are telling people not to release their films directly to OTT. But the fact is that capital stuck is money sitting, is money getting wasted. So if a film is ready, for example, my film, Hum Bhi Akele Tum Bhi Akele, now we are going to come direct to digital. We are not going to wait for the theaters to open up and not wait for the time that, because we don't know, nobody can predict. And even when it does open up, you don't know if people will turn up or not. And like Denzil sir said, it's something I wanted to talk about. Habits are changing. It's going to be 3 months. Human psychology says 21 days of anything is good for it to become the seed to be sown and for it to become a pattern in your life. We are going to be closing in on 90 days, another 2 weeks. So people who are used to consuming things on the web now or on digital platforms, they will be thinking twice before sending 500 rupees at a movie theater. Theaters will have to obviously realign their financial mechanisms because when people are thinking about buying movie tickets, they can't be selling Pepsi and popcorn at $500 and $1,000. So we are looking at a sea of change in terms of how things are going to pan out in the next 6 months from the exhibition point of view. From the filming point of view, we as a production company have already got 2 sets of advisories. The first one came from FICCI, which is the Film Federation in India. The second one has come from IMPA. I think for whenever shoots do begin, there are a set of guidelines that have been shared. Of course, they will change as if things get better or worse. Hopefully, things will get better. But simple things like having a 6-foot distance between the crew, it's physically a hard guideline to follow because a cameraman and a focus puller need to work in a certain proximity for them to be able to do their job. They cannot be standing 6 feet apart. It's not possible to use the camera without having your focus puller a foot or two away. So those kind of guidelines will need to be overlooked along with all the precautionary guidelines that are coming, which is having hand sanitizer pumps, having gloves, but the bigger challenge is how do you shoot in an industry where, I mean, as actors, you need to interact, right? You need to talk, you need to feel, sometimes you need to hug, maybe kiss, maybe make out, so many things. It's impossible to think of all those things when you can't even be standing in the same room without a mask. So I think that is going to be a bigger challenge. Is the art going to start getting compromised? That will you start writing scripts? Now our script's going to be written. Imagine color. Imagine a painter being told that you cannot use color, only paint in black and white. Of course, he will create art, but it will not have any color. I mean, and that will be taking away from the artist. So that's our bigger worry as to people are now looking for smaller film crews, which is fine. Like smaller production houses work between, like we worked with a crew on both our films between 30 and 50 people. So we can easily get specialists who do their job and you go in planned and it's easily doable, which is a good thing for the industry in a way, because I feel Indian film units, sometimes there's a lot of wastage and a lot of leaks, which will now kind of get plugged through. But yeah, it's going to be very, very difficult because now people are looking like there is a demand for smaller cast projects, tight crew projects, people scripts with just 2 actors or 3 actors. So the bigger worry here is, are we going to lean towards making films which are conducive to the environment, if I can say that, because it looks really difficult to be going back to normal. So we will have a new normal now, and it will be a byproduct of the times we are in. And unfortunately, we are looking at these times. I was supposed to start shooting for a film from the 21st of March. It was going to be my directorial debut. It had some wonderful actors in Rasika Duggal and Arjun Mathur and Parambrata Chatterjee, who's a big star in Bengal. And we had to cancel our flights, our bookings. The visas were all done. They have just been lying waste. So that's the other big stress, where a lot of films are in a limbo in the in-between period, where the production, a part of the production has already started, where the financials are stuck and the dates were taken. Now, actors also work as per dates, right? So it's impossible to, it's hard when you have 3 or 4 popular faces, and these 3 names are 3 of the biggest stars right now on the digital circuit. So to get them together is an absolute challenge. And we had everything lined up. We were going to shoot from the 21st of March. We were traveling on the 18th of March. And then we pulled the plug on the 9th of March because we knew things were getting bad in the UK. So also the film is set in the UK. So now, sorry about that. I don't know if UK will open shooting. Now, our script is such that it cannot be made anywhere except the United Kingdom. So do we scrap the film on which we've already invested so much money? Will the actors have dates again together for us to start it? Like, we are targeting November, but is that realistic? Like I said, I'm being extremely optimistic about the fact that we will start shooting in October and all the actors are set. But if the flights don't open, then we'll be looking at a big vacuum for these in the middle production films which are stuck, because the numbers are huge, like the numbers at stake. Like Sir also mentioned, Denzil mentioned that some of the films, the big ticket films, which are in the interim phase. How do you turn the wheel on those? Because people will be worried to come close to each other, to get out of their homes, to fly in an aircraft, to get into a country, say like UK or Spain. I know a very close friend who was getting one of the biggest production houses in Bollywood to they were starting their film on the 28th of March in Spain, and they pulled the plug. And you have to understand, before a film actually goes on floor, there's a lot of pre-production work in terms of recce's, technical recce's. So people have already flown to that country a couple of times to plan everything, how see sunlight, sunrise, sunset, to match everything. It's a huge overhauling of the system for those crews. I can speak from experience for my film. I have some parts of my film set in my house right now because they were made, and it's a set heavy, in the sense prop heavy film. So costumes are made, art direction is ready, but we are in a limbo because of the situation, and you really do not know when this time is going to pass. So this is our reality. There is going to be a dearth of content. As far as the OTTs go, I'd like to just add a little to what Denzil sir said, that it is very important to note that it is slowly going to become while there are OTT platforms that are showing the films, it will become harder and harder, because the evaluation of films starts to get skewed. Because originally what used to happen is, if you've had the theatrical release, then in fact Amazon used to only release films after they've come on theater. They used to have pre-deals and they used to acquire films, but a theatrical release was a must, which they have changed now. Now, because to go in with the times, they're releasing films which have not gone to the theater. Gulabo Sitabo, for example, Shujit Sarkar's upcoming film, was always going to go to Amazon Prime after it released in theaters. Now it's not going to theaters and it's coming straight to Amazon Prime. So if they were getting 2 rupees after a theatrical release, now they are probably getting 2.5 or 3 rupees. But the thing is, does that still make the numbers that they were expecting? Because a film that size, with the cast that it has, if it's a well-made film, it could have just done insane numbers which you cannot predict. But now people will have to bite the bullet and take that chance and take that call, whether you just sit on a film or whether you put the baby out and let people see it and recover whatever you can. And I think that's the reality of the time, and that's what we are all looking at. Numbers are getting crushed. I have been offered 2 scripts between Jan and March, and the producers are already asking me to cut down budgets, because the budgets have been cut down. Those productions are getting, so that's going to be a reality where people make a lot less, therefore they have less spending power. Therefore, like Denzil sir said, each part of the industry is dependent on the other. And unfortunately, we are looking at some really hard times. And truth be told, we need to just brace ourselves and be strong, because this is the new normal. And we'll only be doing harm if we look at it negatively or compare it with the past, because what's gone behind, like everything else, it will be pre-corona, pre-COVID times and post-COVID times. And whenever we do get into post-COVID times, we'll have to just be mentally ready for the changes that hit us, because there are going to be plenty of changes. For now, we can just hope. I'd be happy to take questions if anyone wants to ask anything.
Thank you so much,
If
sir.
you have few,
I request Vinit sir to go for question and answer session. On behalf of our audience, Vinit sir can ask questions to both our speakers, Denzil sir as well as Anshuman sir. Over to Vinit sir.
yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. We have a few questions from our viewers, and I'm going to compile some questions, and I'm taking some questions as it is, as they are in the chat box. The first question is asked by Mr. Sanjay Dhule, and Denzil sir and Anshuman sir, both of you can answer this question. And, the question goes, is open theater a good option than closed theaters? As in the closed theaters, we have centralized air conditions, which pose greater risk of infection. And is there any recent development in this regarding about the open theaters?
Anju, yeah, there is. In fact, there is. I just read an article that there is a resurgence in the 60s and 70s. There used to be this concept of a drive-in theater, you know, and they are thinking of reviving drive-ins back again, where you go into your go drive-in with your car, and you know, we used to have one here in Bandra. At Bandra East, and there is much talk in the industry of reviving the drive-in concept.
See, I think there will be. It's a great idea. Firstly, that's a very good question. But the whole, I'll tell you what the problem with a concept like that will be. But that there is going to be it's going to have a teething phase, where people, in terms of pricing, in terms of how you control in terms of piracy, because in a drive-in theater, in an open theater, you cannot really keep a check on people. Somebody could take a phone out, record. In fact, in the past year and a half, there has been an open theater at this place called Raspberry Rhinoceros in Juhu. I have myself seen 3 films by the ocean in their garden, chilling on the grass. They tried to revive this concept, what Denzil sir spoke of, where you can have your food, and you know, they serve you food, and you're on the grass, and you're on beanbags, and they put the big screen, and they played Tarantino's films, then they played a bunch of Hitchcock's films. So it was like a movie club night that they were doing every weekend. So it's definitely an option, but on a financial level, I don't know how will it work from a behavioral point of view for the audience, and from the pricing point of view for the exhibitor. More importantly, it will require a completely new infrastructure, which is cost again. Putting a reasonably good sound system and projection system and screen in an open area is a cost, as less or more it may be. What happens to the existing theaters which are already lying empty? Because it's not like you can use that screen in the open. That screen is fixed inside the theater. So from the exhibitor's point of view, that's a factor. And more importantly, safety, because piracy can easily happen in a situation, because you can't have security guards checking people while they're watching the film in the open. So yeah, there'll be teething issues for that, but it's a great question.
There's a great question, I know, but you know, there is one more issue here, which is the immersive experience of the cinema, which cannot be replicated. You know, the entire sound being transported in a closed area, that control factor is not there in an open drive-in. You know,
the theater goes dark. You feel you're in the movie. That can't happen. Sir's absolutely right. Yes,
completely immersive experience and transports you. That the possibility of that is reduced very much. Even the sound effects, the quadraphonic and etc., the now very sophisticated sound effects that are incorporated in films will not be possible.
Yeah,
because you'll have one dabba on your, you know. Sorry, you were saying something?
Yeah, I said even the 3D experience won't be possible in open theaters.
Yeah.
We have next question from Kunal Dule. He's asking, are you going to stick to the original script and content, or you're going to edit your content drastically pertaining to the current situation which we are having?
I don't think that's possible here. For example, if I have a story where I'll give you an example of my recent show, Mastram. It's a story of it's a real life story of an 80s writer. It's a biopic in a way. And for example, the Game of Thrones crew was down from Canada and LA to shoot the intimacy in that in that series. Now, there is no way you can do that series about an author who wrote comic books of that nature in that era without having content from the comic books. Like, it's impossible, right? You can vary the degree, yes, but even that will require some sort of yeah, I don't think existing scripts, to answer your question directly, I don't think existing scripts can be changed. If your question is, will there be new scripts written in tune with the times? Absolutely, because that's a demand that is already happening, where people are looking for smaller crews, smaller cast scripts, 2-actor scripts, 3-actor scripts. That will happen.
Okay. Mr. Tejas Makre has asked a question. He says that can OTT media services like Netflix and Amazon permanently replace cinema theaters and cinema halls? And can we say that the cinema halls and theaters are now things of past?
Denzil, you begin, I'll end.
That's too early. That's too early to say. That is too early to make a sweeping statement like that. I hope and pray that it is not the end of cinemas. But in my mind, actually, I feel that nothing will replace that. Nothing will replace that. The only thing that can replace that is these spectacle, these what is that?
VR, virtual reality sets.
VR sets, which are already existing, and movies are made for VR. And where you sit down and in your own home, put on that VR set, and you are transported. That might happen. That is already happening. But still, the collective, again, going back, it's a collective experience, sitting down, sharing the cinema together, sharing the same experience. That human beings are social animals. They need to share experiences together, for which the cinema and the theater is a very integral part of. So I don't know if it will ever.
The Rajasthan International Film Festival.
It gets disinfected, and there are protocols for that, etc., and it goes away. Yeah. So that is also a possibility.
Yeah, absolutely. That is a way of going about it, and I second Denzil, sir, that the cinema experience will never get. There is nothing that can kuch match hi nahi kar sakta. Chance hi nahi hai that I was 7 or 8 or 9 years old when I saw Jurassic Park. That's the first film I ever saw in a theater, English film, when I was in Allahabad, at a theater called Chandralok. I'll never forget. And that's what made me fall in love with the movies. And that's why it's called the movies, right? That's why it's called cinema, because you watch it on the big screen experience. So I personally agree with that the big screen experience will never leave. I hope it doesn't. Yes, the newer and newer generation will get used to things like VR, but there's a research done in America which says that VR, 30% people get unko chakkar aane lagta hai, or they have eye issues on VR sets. So I don't think that will be as common a practice whole and soul in future, but it's definitely an option for a part of, like I have a VR set and I don't particularly enjoy. I watch short films on that because short films don't come on the big screen. Also because short films are shorter in duration. VR sets for a really long time start giving you a slight discomfort and headache. So yeah, I really hope and pray that cinema never goes out. It's a tradition. It's a form of art. Like these days, there's a lot of theater happening on the mobile. People are doing these book my show lives, but you can never replace the personal experience of stage, right? When you go to Prithvi, you sit, you see actors. That's why you watch theater. Similarly, you can never get that on a mobile phone or on a laptop. Similarly, the big screen experience will never leave. That's what I feel. I hope so. I'll pray it doesn't.
Okay, we have another question from Professor Leeladhar Gaikwad, and the question goes: can the loss which is already existing, can it be covered, and what are the conditions in the film making business in the coming few months or maybe a year? You see, how do you see it in the film making business?
Yeah, like I said, I've already got the first two set of. They will keep changing. Yeah, you cannot fix guidelines and laws right now because nobody knows how long this is going to last. But there will be changes. And by laws, you mean guidelines, right? Shooting guidelines. Is that what you mean? Yeah.
Yes.
So shooting. So what we've got as the first set came last month, and the second set has come now from the Producers Association, and it will keep going through changes. Like I gave you a small example that it says one of the guidelines is 6 foot of distance between crew members. A director of photography, cinematographer, and a focus puller cannot be at 6 feet. They need to be closer. So things like that will have to be discussed, will have to be changed. Yes, there will be wholesome changes, but it's a work in progress as far as I feel. You cannot fix things saying that this is it, because a lot of it will be trial and error also, especially in our country. Trust me.
Okay, we have another question. It says that, do you think this pandemic will have a long-term impact on cost of production and distribution of movies and series on all the platforms? Is the impact going to be long-term?
At least for the next 12 months for sure. Because I'll tell you, that's the cycle that a film takes to get made. So just practically speaking, we shot, I can speak of the film that Sir and me did together. We shot for it in May and August last year, and it was going to release in May this year. So, you're looking at 10 months to 12 months. I'm saying the professional setups work like that. Now we've been in a lockdown for nearly 3 months. And we don't know how the next few months will look. I mean, I know things are opening from tomorrow. Even though the numbers are increasing, things are opening. So I don't know how I don't want to comment on that, but we don't know how bad it will be in the next 2 months. So to say it simply, I definitely see the next 12 months being affected for sure, but it could be longer if this continues for long. Because Denzil sir said a very good thing. He spoke of behavioral patterns changing, which is something we all need to pay attention to and pay serious attention to, because like I said, psychology says 21 days is a new habit to form, and we are already into 3 months. So let's be honest and fair about where this is heading. So yes, long term.
Okay, we will take 2 more questions and then we can wind up. What are the steps do you think the government should take to protect and safeguard the interests of the people who are working in the entertainment business?
So you want to take that first?
Advisor or pandemic advisor or whatever you might call pandemic producer or whatever. There'll be a new post which should be mandatory for all films. Like you have an art director, there will be a safety director,
a new credit,
and a new position. Yeah,
a new form of
which I think is a very important thing where the Indian film industry is concerned, because they are very, very lax on this issue. Because I have been put in danger several times on film shoots.
Yeah,
safety
Sir's right. There's a silver lining.
Safety issues are not even a quarter as much as what they take on Western in Hollywood and in England. Where the safety of the crew and the actor is of primary importance. Here to bhaad mein gaya, they risk them. They don't karo yaar, no problem. What is the problem, yaar? What is the problem? That's that's why casualties are quite high, actually. You know. Yeah. So all these things have the protocols for these have to be enforced. They have not only to be the guidelines have to be made and strictly enforced.
Yeah.
That is the way they'll protect the people in the industry, working in the industry.
I think Sir's just hit the nail on the head by saying enforced. I think that's the word. That's a problem that sometimes we face as a country in implementing things. It'll need to be strict. It'll need to be focused, and it'll need to not be corrupt because it involves our health. So it'll need to be something like you'll need to be cold-hearted and be very strict about the protocols that the government comes out with. I think it's also imperative, and I think the government of India and the respectable industry, the government, everyone's talking about how we can, in a positive, healthy way, come out of this, because, you know, there are a lot of lives that depend on the film industry. Sometimes we don't pay attention to the smallest of smaller logistical people who, you know, depend on films as like the catering business that provides food.
That is a bimari in our country. We have no value for life. Yeah. You know, for no value for life whatsoever. But let me tell you, I'll just give you a small example of what happened quite recently. And on two sets. On one set, I had a blank gun, you know, which was loaded, I think, too wrongly, and it went off right next to my ear, and it was so loud I was deafened for 3 days. Yeah. Now, the same thing I was shooting, you know, on a Western, on a foreign British production, and there was a blank which was placed here. You know, they have these explosions where the things burst and blood comes out and all. It's all wired, etc., etc. Now that was with a British actor who was in front of me, and he gets shot, and I go to hold him, and this bullet went off, and it was so loud. I think it was loaded a little extra, and it stunned him, and he just went and sat down. Yeah. Now, the production people there, the safety people there on that set, the producers, immediately rushed on the set and said, "Who did this? What happened with it?" and stopped the shoot. And stopped the shoot. We cannot endanger our actors. Yeah? And stopped the shoot completely. It was a really important, very important scene which was to be shot, and it was toward the end of the scene, for which they rescheduled it the next day, and the whole schedule went here, but they stopped the shoot right there. Now, this would never happen on an Indian film, on an Indian film set. You know, I don't know, Anjuman, I don't know if you've had any experiences. I've had several of these.
No, so I'll tell you why. I have been offered, it's something very basic, like you said. For example, on a foreign crew, if two people are supposed to do an intimacy scene together, there's an intimacy director to do it, right? So that the actors feel safe, secure, it's done aesthetically. In India, something as simple as that just happens. You know, it just happens. Ki ho jayega. They try to do the best, but it's a specialist job, which is what I think it boils down to. You need to just be very particular about specialists doing their job so that everyone is safe, everyone is secure, and there is no ho jayega-ness happening. So I think with a like Sir said, a pandemic expert or whatever the title or credit will be, I hope it's not just a credit, and I hope people who are capable of doing the job get the job and do it well, because that's the bigger challenge, I think.
Qualified to do the job.
We will take the last question now. can we say that more and more producers will be reluctant to invest their money in producing movies and series during this pandemic and even after post-pandemic world?
Now, so nobody's going to put money in. That's what I feel. Now, so there's investment is very far and few. It's going to be a little difficult. The people in the industry will do it. Outside, I don't know. Anjuman, you think? What do you think?
No, I think quite the contrary, actually. Because there has, and I'm talking from experience in the last 4 weeks, from what I'm hearing, the number of scripts I'm getting, the costs of production is going to come down. Yes. But like Sir said in his talk, the fact is people are home and maybe the patterns and behaviors are changing. So therefore, the OTT platforms need more content for it to keep churning the fireball. So I think there's going to be a lot of new stuff that's going to get sanctioned, subject to obviously when it's going to get made, depending on when this lockdown ends. And I am telling you, I have been asked for dates in August and September by 2 separate production houses. So they are confident they'll be able to shoot with a limited crew based on the guidelines that have been given as of now. So people are looking at this as a time to crank up their volumes because they know there's going to be a demand, especially on the OTT. From a series point of view, yes. From a film production point of view, things will take a stopgap, sort of a pause, because originals will start happening a lot. Like Netflix does originals, Hotstar does originals. So you'll start having films which have smaller numbers. Therefore, the producer's investment would be that much smaller because the revenue generation will reduce from the OTT platforms. So everything's going to come down. You know, we keep saying loss of the industry across the fields. The point is, jab log paisa kama hi nahi rahe, you know, no industry is functioning. So there is no money in the market. So nobody can spend. I know it's a financial cycle and that's how it works. But even when things open, we need to remember, will people have the buying power? Netflix has a yearly subscription fee of 800 or 900 or $1,000. I don't know how much. They have way lesser subscribers than someone which is free or which is 600 a month. So the spending power is a huge factor here, which we all need to pay attention to, and that will majorly reduce, thereby reducing cinema going content, yes, but there's going to be a real surge on the OTT content production once things open up.
What I was referring to, Anjuman, are individual investors. Investors who are not, they're coming forth with money.
Yeah.
That I feel will not be so forthcoming. You know, outside investors. Like many, there are in India, many people, it works like that. Yeah. So there is a gets money from 10 different sources. You know,
Correct.
That the institutional investors, like the platforms, etc., will continue. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
But money that will not be forthcoming will be from these investors.
Absolutely. Liquid, yes, I agree, sir. Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir. It was a very thought-provoking interaction, and thank you so much for enlightening us with your experience and with your talk. Now I hand over the session to Professor Pramod Dagde, and he will propose the formal vote of thanks.
Pramod sir.
Pramod sir. Pramod sir.
Hello, hello. Yes, madam. Thank you. Okay, madam. Thank you, Vinit sir. It's my pleasure to hear for vote of thanks. I don't have adequate words to express my deep sense of gratitude towards both the resource persons, Mr. Denzil Smith and Mr. Anshuman Jha, for the valuable information which they have shared with us. Really, it was amazing and thought-provoking session. Both the experts had really gone into the depth analysis of the issue pandemic COVID-19 and its impact on drama and film industry. Thanks a lot to both eminent personalities for imparting useful information and their knowledge with us. I also take the opportunity to express gratitude towards the management of our institution, Principal Chairperson webinar, Dr. Geeta Memon, Technical Team Head, Vice Principal Professor Neelam Kapoor, Member of Technical Team and the convener of the webinar, Dr. Manjushri Dhole, Head of the Department of Economics, and all other members of Economics Department. Finally, I also express gratitude towards the large number of participants. Once again, a special thanks to both the resource persons, Mr. Denzil Smith and Anshuman Jha. Thank you all.
Thank you.